Okay, so are we live already? Yes, we are already live. And our topic for today is about low carb, not for weight loss. Okay? Yung paglo-low carb po na hindi para pangpabawas ng timbang. And I would like to invite again my special guest. So, nasa na yung guest natin? I think lalabas sila mamaya-maya. Let's wait for them. Okay? So, meron po tayong two special guests. Couple sila. Okay? Couple sila na naglo-low carb. Okay? At ginagawa nila ito not for weight loss. Okay? Ginagawa nila ito for other reasons. Pakinggan natin sila. Let's wait for them. Okay? Let's wait for them to come in. So, ano-ano yung mga reasons nyo why you are doing low carb? So, put it in the comment section. We will see kung ano yung mga reasons ninyo. But definitely, hindi lang po pampapayat yung low carb. Okay? We will call them. Kasi nawala sila. Kanina nandito na sila. But we will wait for them. Mamaya papasok yung mga yon. Okay? So, we will come again. Come inside again. And you will see them. So, eto, yung topic natin ngayon, we already discussed low carb for healing, low carb for weight loss, okay? And we know na yung low carb hindi lang po para sa mayaman, hindi lang para sa may kaya. Anybody can really enjoy the benefits ng low carb and fasting when they do it right. So ano nga ba yung low carb? Yung low carb ay yung pagkain na ini-eliminate natin, yung mga tinatawag nating high in carbohydrates, yung mga pagkain nakakapagpataas ng blood sugar, and of course, the food that spikes your insulin at nakakapagpamaga ng katawan. Okay? So that is inflammation. Okay? So, kapag naglo-low carb ka, usually yung kinakain mo, when it is a nutrient-dense low carb, puro ulam lang at puro gulay. So, hindi naman puro ulam lang lahat. Ulam at gulay. Yung itlog, ano ba yung itlog? Minsan kasi yung itlog parang gray area eh. Pwede siyang gawing parang kanin, pwede din siyang maging ulam. Okay? So, the most common composition, kung membro ka rin ng aming Life Without Rice, meat, either karne, manok, baboy, isda, seafoods, okay? Kahit anong klaseng meat. And then, yung kapares nito, vegetables, and itlog. Okay? Kung wala mang itlog, it's okay. Pwedeng meat lang and vegetables. Kung walang vegetables, okay lang din. Pwedeng meat lang and eggs. Kung walang meat, pwede rin, itlog and vegetables. Pero kailangan yung damihan. Or else baka mag-calorie deficit kayo. O hindi na kayo kumakain pa ng merong enough nutrients, ng vitamins and minerals. Okay? So, importante that you consider all this. Hinihintay natin yung ating special guest ngayon. Tingnan natin. See call participants. I know, nandyan. Oo, nawala sila kanina, nandito na eh. Kanina nandito na sila. So, we will just wait for them. Just know na yung paglo-low carb at pagpa-fasting, hindi lang po siya pampapayat. Actually, yung nadiskubre nung fasting noon, it's actually for healing. At hindi ka matatakot na just because normal na yung weight mo, ay baka maging malnourished ka na. When you do it for the right reasons, you can actually improve. Meron ngang marami ng testimonials, and there's also evidence na certain serious conditions tulad ng cancers, tumors, it is responding very well. Kapag nagki-chemotherapy at nagre-radiation, tapos they are pairing it up with a proper fasting protocol, yung therapeutic fasting protocol, at saka yung therapeutic ketosis-induced ketosis, na yung pagkain kinakain talaga is actually from real food sources. So those are really considered as possible treatment. So hindi ibig sabihin na, say for example, naglo-low carb ka at nagpa-fasting, ay hindi ka na magki-chemotherapy o magre-radiation o di kaya hindi ka na magpapa-opera. Iba po yun. Because when you already need those traditional medical therapy, baka nag-cross na kayo sa point na kailangan na talagang operahan. Okay? So that you can save your life. So if recommended for you to go on operation, Okay? So for example, merong cancer sa iyong dila. Okay? So baka kailangan talagang putulin yung part ng dila na yon para hindi mo na mag-spread. At least, masisave yung buhay mo. And ano yung benefit ng paglo-low carb o pagfa-fasting dahil dyan? Then, yung benefit dyan is actually the prevention of further disease, because kung nagkaroon na ng panahon na meron ng tumubong tumor sa iyo, then maybe compared to a normal or a person na walang history ng tumor or cancer, yung tendency mo to have another tumor, to have another cancer recurrence sa ibang parte ng buhay mo ay pwede mangyari. So, nandito na sila. Sandali lang. We will accept and join. Sige. Nandito na sila. Hello!
Hi!
Hi!
Hi.
Presenting everyone, Attorney Cath and Ken Chu.
Hi, everyone. And
Arky.
Oh,
So, of course, isang pamilya pala. Sorry, kung nilagay ko doon kanina, ano lang, lawyer couple doing low carb and fasting. Okay? So, as you can see, Attorney Cath is actually my sister. Okay? Same.
Oh.
Ito yung yung surprise. Actually, so Attorney Cath is my sister. So, Arky is already 2 months and 10 days and 13 days.
Yeah, but he acts like he's an adult. He is awake the entire day and only sleeps at night.
Wow, that's so good. So, as you can see, 2 months. Wala pang 3 months kapapanganak ng ate ko. Okay? She's actually my older sister, but you know, she looks really, really young. At malalaman natin kung anong sikreto niya mamaya. No? Agree si Attorney Chu. Agree. Okay? So, both of them are actually on good physical form physically. Never really needed to lose so much pounds or weight, like as per BMI. Hindi talaga kayo naging overweight, di ba? Pero is it true you are doing low carb right now and fasting also, like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, and if you've been doing this for so long,
For so long.
not really so long, but for me it has been like more than 2 years, 3 years already. Yeah.
Almost 3 years. Almost 3 years for our family.
Since last year.
Ako last year.
Since naging family na din.
Yeah, maybe July. July when what did she say?
Nung naging family na. Since naging family na din.
Right. Well, a little before that.
Okay, that's good.
About a couple of months before the wedding back in October last year. Before low carb, I used to get into vegan diet, vegetarian diet. So I also went and tried that. But yeah, with the low carb, because I had to support what Kat was doing. She was into the low carb, intermittent fasting, fast and feasting, and I tried it.
Major in feasting. Major in feasting.
More on the feasting, a little bit fasting on the side. Yeah. And she introduced me to long periods of fasting between 3 to 5 days, extended fasting.
Wow.
And well, as for me, I get to stick with it because she makes sure that there's plenty of food in the house, food that we can eat and enjoy. So I have no problem getting into it. So low carb has been, we've been doing it since we get married, essentially, which was October of last year. It was quite challenging for us when Kat got pregnant, right? When we learned by November that she was pregnant, because we had to make sure that she was eating, right? Because the baby. And with low carb, you really have to design your house to have food available that is in line with low carb. Yeah, and when we got soon after getting married back in October, I remember when we were not in low carb diet, we would have cake, a slice of cake almost every day, right? And prior to the wedding, and we enjoyed that. And so when she decided that she's going to have the baby, uh, say, stick to a low carb diet while she's pregnant, that was a challenge for us. But not long after that, you came to visit and introduced to us desserts, how to prepare desserts, our own desserts, low carb desserts. So we had the burnt basket
Parang,
cake.
bakit kasalanan ko?
So as soon as we figured how to make desserts for us that are also low carb and well, tasty and enjoyable, and then we were able to stick with the low carb diet.
Yeah, it became very sustainable for us.
Come again?
Mhm.
We're able, I can hear you.
Very sustainable.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that
So,
was always the challenge.
mm-mm.
Yeah.
Because I think during those time, like pre-wedding time, yung bago kayo ikasal, di ba? Imagine the treats during your wedding. It was Marks and Spencer chocolates, biscuits, cookies ni sino ng secretary mo, and then all of those treats talaga, the dalgona coffee and all that. Sobrang sweet talaga, and I myself really tried all of those kahit naka low carb ako, because it was a very special day for the family. You are the most special for me, so on your wedding day, nag-high carb ako that time, di ba? And ganun yun. And that's how we actually live. We go on these things purposely. We decide not just kumain tayo because it's just there, but we do it on a deliberate fashion and conscious decision. And we are prepared kung ano yung effect nun. So, even if you've been doing like low carb for quite some time on a strict basis, can you still recall the time na when you indulge in high carb desserts, and what it made you feel after? And how come na bumalik kayo sa low carb? Like ideally, as much as possible, why do you still keep on staying to low carb? What did you feel when you had high carb?
Actually, a month ago, because Arky is now 2 months old. So since the delivery, it has been sleepless nights for us. And the fact that I had a laparoscopy 2 weeks after the delivery. So those weeks were really so stressful for all of us. And there was one day when wala na talaga kaming self-control. Biglang sinabi, I was so tired. Ken was so tired also. And I
very suggestible.
yeah, very suggestible. So parang biglang sinabi, ano, gusto mong mag-chips? Tapos parang kunyari may nag-suggest sa amin, ano, plus cake and Coke. Tapos so, since nga wala kaming self-control that time, we ordered. We ordered. So we had I think Conti's cake and Coke and some Lays. Then so while eating, we were so happy. But right after, we felt like crap. And we
You
vowed.
say crap in your show?
Oh, sorry.
Okay lang, para I think si Arky lang yung minor dito.
Sorry, baby. So after that, we vowed never to do it again.
So yeah, just to add on what Kat just shared with you, when we were feasting with high carb food, for a brief moment we really enjoyed ourselves, right? Because for example, in low carb, there's really no alternative when it comes to chips. Not so much with cake, because we have a lot of low carb cakes. And soda, we have kombucha, for example, so we get by with those cravings. But with the chips, and with the chips, we don't have a good alternative. The closest thing that we have is kangkong chips, right? And we thought that, well, if we're gonna have and indulge some in some chips, then might as well just have this time of cheating. Also get some cake and some soda. It was briefly, we really enjoyed ourselves, but right after, perhaps just a couple of minutes after we finished eating, we were full. We really felt heavy, groggy. It, it's almost like we were about to have some fever, right? Yeah, and add to that the fact that we had to take care of our 1-month-old baby, and we are deprived, so it was terrible. It was truly terrible. And we looked at each other and we said, we can't get into this. We can't do this to ourselves. And yeah, it's that time that we told ourselves that we really don't have to cheat. We're doing well, sticking with our low carb diet. We just make sure that we have food available. We do groceries regularly. We get fresh food, and yeah, we are reaping the benefits of sticking with low carb
Okay.
and getting nutritious food available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would like you to think of what are those benefits. But before that, I want to check. Sabi ni Angel, 1/4 lang pala yung itsura ni Kat yung nakikita. So if you can move
Oh,
a little
wow.
bit to the center. Okay. Yes, para magkita kayong dalawa. And of course, for all of our viewers, especially yung mga nakabasa na ng libro, okay? So I cannot publish that without first the approval of my sister, of course. So sa lahat ng mga ginagawa ko, if I can't convince her, I cannot convince anybody else. Okay? Kasi abogado siya and lumaki kaming dalawa. At kung sino ang number one na nagki-criticize sa akin on the things that I do, constructively of course, is her. So if I cannot convince her, I am not confident to convince anybody else. And actually, if I can convince her, I already don't care if I can convince other people. So, ganun yun. And then,
Ikaw
now,
pala yung test dito.
yeah, and now, there's already 2 of you. Kasi, somewhat, pareho lang talaga kayo. So, that's why, the moment that you both enjoyed low carb and eventually, alam nyo naman, I am never pushy, di ba? Never ko kayong finors and I always support you kahit pa sa mga araw na mag-high carb or whatever. I always go with you, but you deciding it on your own is really something that I feel like people can really see na if you guys are doing it, and Ken, even if Ken is a lawyer, he is also coming from a family of doctors. So she has sisters who are doctors and kahit hindi siya doktor, abogado siya, mas malikot pa siya sa doktor magtanong. Mas before the wedding, we had discussions like while I'm preparing your desserts, your burnt cheesecake and your kombucha hack noon, you were asking so many things and we were discussing low carb before the wedding or during those times, okay? And don't worry, I'll be there in a couple of days and gagawa tayo ng low carb chips. Okay?
Wow.
Low carb chips. But for now, what are the benefits ba? You both looking so young and so healthy. What were your health considerations in general? Why do you do low carb? Like more on prevention, or are you preventing certain disease from occurring, or do you have previous issues na parang gusto nyong ayaw ng balikan? What's in it for both of you? Individually first.
Me first.
You go.
Well, for me, prior to having a family, I was into low carb and fasting because it energizes me. I was so workaholic before. So yun, parang the lifestyle enables me to do a lot of things. And for me not to get sick, for me not to function optimally kahit na konti yung tulog, kahit pagod. So that's one. And also, it just makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, wala yung bloated feeling.
And I think I can recall parati kang merong chronic headache, and then before menstruation you have all of these tender knees,
The
aches and
lumps.
pains, na lumps, no? Na parang normal na talaga, tinatanggap lang natin na merong ganyan. And then I can also recall na you are spending at least 2 hours every day sa gym just for you to keep fit. Parang,
Yeah.
diba?
That's my thing talaga, na parang I never cut down on my food. Kumakain ako lahat. actually parang more than one rice ako dati every meal. Pero I keep myself in a good shape by going to the gym na sobrang sometimes parang parang medyo addict na morning mag-gym or midnight minsan. I'm enrolled sa Anytime Fitness. So, minsan 12 midnight, 1 a.m. Magte-treadmill pa ako.
Kasi nasa baba lang ng unit mo before. So, parang extension lang siya ng bahay mo talaga.
Yeah.
Inom muna ako ng tubig. Baba muna ako sa gym, inom ng tubig. But when you did low carb and fasting, is it right that I can recall you said you had more time? Kasi nga, you were able to keep your shape, your fitness, even now, during that time, na hindi ka na ganon ka nag-gym from 2 hours a day up to 1 hour a week na lang.
Tapos na lang, yoga na lang, or mga weights na lang.
Or just mere walking. Just walking lang, going to your office.
And then taking the stairs, parang yun na yung pinaka-exercise ko.
Ganoon. Oh, and still you were able to maintain your weight. At kahit nga you already gave birth, halos hindi ka talaga nag-put on so much weight. Wala talaga. So you are still looking the same. And of course, no, plus with the beautiful baby Arky. And Ken, what's in it for you?
Yeah, but before that, you mentioned about she didn't put a lot of pounds even when she got pregnant. That's specifically true when right before she went on maternity, right before she had to deliver the baby, she was hustling and doing double time for her office because she knew that she had to leave for some time. And I remember one of her colleagues was telling her that how is it that you're the one who's about to give birth, but you look thinner than I am? and I think that's also one of the reasons why most of her colleagues would still give her a lot of work, despite the fact that she is on her condition. Because I believe because whenever they're on meetings, they see her with her thin face. They really don't get the idea or can't grasp the fact that she's having a lot of difficulties with her pregnancy. But because of how she looked, that no hint that she's pregnant whatsoever. Especially with the online meetings that they were having. Right? Yeah. So that was funny.
I can remember the photo you sent na she was doing like online meeting, and in the camera, of course, she looks like the usual Cath, no? Na always presentable and always serious and all the corporate look. But below is a very, very large tummy na hindi nila nakikita. And when it comes to her energy level, productivity level, and face value, hindi talaga mag-aakala na meron siyang 8-pound na baby na dinadala and almost firm na. Wala talaga. So,
even her OB was surprised na malaki pala yung baby. Kasi she thought na kala niya mga 5 pounds lang daw. Kasi I wasn't so big. Even my tummy wasn't that big. Yeah. So the weight I gained was all baby.
Yeah. I was there when I saw the face of the doctor when Arky got out. And they realized that he was a big baby and he was 7 pounds, 7 ounces. The doctor was really freaking out that had I known, I would not have gone through normal delivery. I would have pushed for CS because the baby is really big. And she labored for a long time. Anyway, for me, I before getting into low carb diet, I have always been into good physical activity. So I went into, for example, CrossFit. When I was doing CrossFit, I wasn't paying attention to my nutrition. And although I would see some gains in terms of bulking up and building some muscles, the fat really didn't go away as fast as I would like. And then that's when I realized that, body physique is a 80% or over 80% the food that you're getting to yourself. And exercise is good, but it won't shed your fat.
Yes.
And so that's when I started getting to researching about the different diets that I could get into. That's why I got into vegetarian diet. I got into vegan diet, and that was tough, but I still enjoyed it. And then with the low carb, when Kat introduced me to low carb, I was pretty happy about it because I got into vegan. You could just imagine having sticking to a vegan
Break
diet.
free, you know,
And
freedom.
what but aside from it's easier to stick to, what I really like about low carb diet is the fact that having listened to a lot of experts on the detrimental effect of sugar to our bodies, right? We can't see it, but the science is just there that sugar is just detrimental for anyone. So if I can sustain a lifestyle where I'm not ingesting constantly detrimental foods such as sugar into my body, then I'm all 100% for it. Especially now that we're starting our young family. So it's important that we are in tip-top shape because we're not getting any younger. So for me, it's vital that I am able to keep up with our growing family, with the fact that especially now that with the COVID pandemic happening, that we can't afford to get sick. So having learned that sugar is a trigger for a lot of the deadly hypertension, the diabetes, all these things that you could prevent, even Alzheimer's, for example. There's a lot of literature and medical journals about the detrimental effect of sugar with cancer patients, for example, and how it's one of the things that could exacerbate that. So low carb for me is something that is heaven sent. We are able to stick with it because I don't feel deprived at all. Kat prepares amazing low carb food for when we break or fast during lunchtime, and she tossed some salads and with cheese and romaine lettuce and some cherry tomatoes and just put some a little bit of dressing here and there. Put some dried blueberries. We're good. Better than rice, definitely. So
Yeah.
yeah, sticking to it is not a problem at all. In fact, we enjoy it. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. And I hear you also do the same for her. Anong paborito mong luto niya? Duday.
Yeah. His specialty is the low carb pizza. The crust is made of cheese, egg, and cauliflower.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. Also better than high carb pizza.
Yeah, actually, kasi yung high carb pizza, wala nang appeal sa akin yung crust, yung regular flour. There's no flavor in it as compared to like a cheese based, cauliflower based or almond flour based. It tastes way better, 'di ba?
Mhm.
The moment you get used to it. And actually, I haven't seen you for a year already since the wedding. So, belated happy anniversary to both of you. And you look really even better than last year. I think your skin are glowing, both of you. No, hindi na. Oh, even
The secret there is no sleep.
No
That's
sleep.
that's the secret.
Almost zero sleep.
wala kayong sleep ngayon. Dahil sa batang yan. Dahil sa
I wonder why.
imagine na lang, no, if with the right sleep. But of course, no, it's all part there. I think what compensates the lack of sleep is the abundance of happiness. Tama ba?
Yeah.
Bundle of joy.
Bundle of joy. Sobrang bundle of joy.
Bundle of joy.
And to emphasize, so you've been on strict low carb while you're pregnant the whole 9 months. Can you expound more on your experience during that time?
Actually, like first 2 months or 3 months, there was a time na I would indulge because I would
May
have
excuse,
the
diba?
pregnancy as an excuse. So,
Oh.
parang ano naman, dalawa kaming kumakain. Tapos our OB would,
Cravings is there.
cravings would be there. And our OB would recommend for me to get my fill. Yeah. So, actually, first 3 months, yung wedding ring ko and engagement ring, medyo sumikip. Yung fingers ko medyo nag-bloat ng konti. Tapos, I had this test, yung glucose test. I
GTT.
failed it. Oo, I failed it kasi medyo low carb na ako for so long eh. So when I was ingested with 75 grams of sugar, so my insulin, my sugar spiked. So I failed it, and my OB recommended for me to see an endocrinologist.
Yes.
But when I talked to you and you enlightened me on the fact that surely I can manage it with changes in my lifestyle and the way I eat, and I would just have to monitor it with a glucometer. So I did that. I went back into strict low carb, and from then on until I gave birth, sobrang nag-stick na ako sa strict low carb. And that time, since even at the moment of delivery, suot ko pa yung wedding ring ko. Medyo maluwag pa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And those foods that you've been eating, it's like really nourishing your baby, no? And you, like, there's no ba? Yung hindi ka talaga parang matubig o yung parang tumaba talaga.
yung namanas.
Si Arky lang lumaki.
Si Arky lang. Actually, si Arky, ang cord niya, tsaka yung placenta for him.
Yun ang malalaki.
Oo, kasi...
Nakita ko yun. Yung picture.
Yeah.
Alam mo ba, the umbilical cord, parang twice ng common umbilical cord na nakita ko.
Oo, si Ken, he was the one who cut the umbilical cord.
It was really a challenge. Sobrang may resistance.
Very rubbery.
Yeah.
Very strong.
Even our OB was shocked about it.
The tensile strength. So, kasi para sa pregnant, the most of the nutrition is going to the baby and the placenta because it is the primary food source niya. And then, for the mother, you can just maintain. So, yung sinasabi ng iba na you will go into hypoglycemia or baka maging halted yung growth ng baby, yung development. I know parents are all very proud and biased sa kanilang anak, but speaking objectively, how do you think Arky is doing now as a 2-month-old child?
Grabe, nung pagkapanganak sa kanya, we were saying para na siyang 1-month-old. Parang sobrang advanced na. I have a video of him, 6-hour-old baby pa siya noon. He was wide awake, and we were talking to him, and he was really listening. He was looking at us straight in our eyes. Sobrang parang iba yung development niya. And I've read naman talaga na the development of the baby starts in the womb. So parang madami siyang development na ginawa doon sa womb pa lang. Ngayon, we're calling him a 2-year-old baby. Kasi parang iba talaga siya.
He's really long. Yeah.
He's really long. He pays attention. He seems like he could understand.
Yeah, kanina before we started, di ba? Nasabi ko nga, so okay lang kay Arky gumawa tayo ng live, and he's really cooing. Responding. May approval sa kanya.
Ang medyo detrimental lang sa amin kasi nga, pag parang adult na during the day, ayaw matulog.
So, nagkikisabay. I think gusto na talaga niyang makipagkwentuhan. It's just that yung structural, anatomical parts niya, hindi pa ready.
Yeah,
pero siya like yung processing niya, nandun na talaga. Can't grow up. Yung ganong level.
Yeah.
So right now, you are purely breastfeeding, right?
Yeah.
Breastfeeding. Okay, so still doing low carb.
Still doing low carb, yeah.
Ano sasabi mo para sa mga mommies na nagsasabing hindi muna ako magpa-fasting at hindi muna ako maglo-low carb kasi magbe-breastfeed ako? What can you say about that? Like, just from your own experience.
For me, if you're not doing low carb while breastfeeding, you are robbing your child of a chance to have a really healthy development and growth. Kasi I can see it for myself na if I consume nutrient-dense food and I avoid sugar, which we know is really bad, natatranslate yun to better things for the baby.
Yung
And
composition ng milk mo mismo.
oo, yung composition mismo ng milk. Yeah, very rich, di ba, yung color niya.
Yeah.
Kasi when I was in the hospital during the operation, may mga nag-donate sa amin. May difference dun sa milk.
Doon mo nakita yung mga donation na milk. Di ba sobrang lasaw yung iba?
Oo.
No,
Yung
yung sobrang,
Yeah.
yeah.
no, hindi siya ganun ka-thick. But you, because of course, you don't have any point of comparison before. Yes, Ken?
Oo.
Well, there's this interesting thing that we learned while watching a documentary series in Netflix called Babies, right? Where there's an experiment that they did with babies. Tingnan nila, all parents would really like their kids as they grow up that for them to eat vegetables, for example. So tinignan nila, is there an effect to the baby's preference on vegetables? Meaning, would they like vegetables? Depending on ano yung kinakain madalas ng mommies, which then, if it translates to the milk that they ingest. So meaning, pag ma-introduce ba, for example, yung mom, if the mom eats a lot of vegetable like broccoli and carrots, tapos would that have an effect on the milk na binibigyan niya sa baby niya? And in turn, would this baby prefer carrots later on than any other sugary food, for example?
Yeah.
And the result was really, it just dumbfounded us na babies na nag-ingest ng milk, yung mom nila ay kumakain ng carrots, for example, they're more drawn to it. They prefer the carrot flavored na cereal ba yun? Yeah. And so, this is like for us, even lay parents like us, na we want the best for the child, right? And we want them to eat vegetables. Greens are good for you. So, this is where you can actually have an impact and influence on the preference of your child later on as they grow up. Now, if you eat vegetables now and you give your milk to your child while you're eating those vegetables, they would like vegetables later on. So I think that's something that really opened our eyes. Because the converse is true. If you eat a lot of sugary food right now while you're breastfeeding your child, chances are very good that your child would later on prefer and like these foods that are sweet or sugary, right? And not nutrient dense, and it just causes a lot of problems for them later on. Yeah.
You mentioned about yes.
Another thing yung health talaga ng mother consuming low carb food. Kasi with the rate we were going since the delivery, siguro ilang beses na ako nagkasakit because of the deprivation, yung puyat. Pero since we're doing this lifestyle, puyat, pero still, kaya.
Kaya. Okay. So, you mentioned, Ken, about nutrient-dense food. Para sa mga viewers natin ngayon, actually, our live viewers is nasa around 2,000 live viewers tayo ngayon. Okay, so hi to everyone who is watching. You mentioned about the nutrient-dense food, and I understand na my sister said she was asking for so many things while she was pregnant that are low carb, but actually not really nutrient-dense. Okay? For example, shirataki noodles. Okay? So, can you help expound kung in your own research, because you've mentioned all of these, no? So, nakikita niyo po, guys, no? Attorney Ken is doing his own research. He has no problem reading medical journals. Okay? So, wala siyang problema magbasa ng medical journals. So, as per your readings and your own application, how can you differentiate nutrient-dense low carb and just regular, not nutrient-dense low carb?
Right. Kasi ngayon nasa pandemic tayo, so work from home, marami akong time. So yung mga medical journal pinapatulan ko. But really, hindi siya rocket science. So we have eggs, for example, right? Eggs is a commodity, right? So they're prevalent. And if you just do a little digging, you'd know that eggs is one of our superfoods, and they're relatively cheap and they're available everywhere, and you can have them in a reasonable amount daily. So, for example, you have your hard-boiled egg. When we talk about nutrient dense, is that yung volume ng food versus yung nutritional laman niya. So, for example, you have bread and you have hard-boiled egg. You know, in terms of the volume of the food, whether they will fill you up or not, let's just say, for argument's sake, na they're pretty much the same. Pero yung nutrition na makukuha mo from the egg, which has protein and fat, whereas yung bread, for example, your regular bread, it has a lot of carbohydrates. So that carbohydrates would then be turned into sugar. So with those things, dito sa amin, for example, when we would break our fast, eggs is our go-to. Tapos lots of onions, tomatoes. So it's really just up to you na, alam mo yun, you just season your food. So yung eggs sa amin is really a staple, right? Yun yung medyo alternative namin sa rice. We will put kimchi in the egg. We will put cauliflower. We'll have the cauli rice, for example. So this adjustment in terms of what you keep around sa house mo. So for example, yung shirataki, instead of having shirataki as an alternative sa noodles, then I would prepare, for example, yung sinabi ni Cath earlier na low-carb pizza, right? So, and itong low-carb pizza na to has mozzarella, it has cauliflower, it has eggs, and then the meat that you would want. Kasi you would have your fat sources from, you can source your fat from, for example, the eggs, and then from the cheese, for example. And then all of the proteins you can just include there, like pepperoni, for example. And if you just compare that with having some ginisa na ulam and then you just put your shirataki, so just because it's low carb doesn't mean it's good for you. Kasi kami, gustong-gusto namin ng sweets. So even if it's low carb and, you know, sweets na low carb pero doesn't have a lot of nutrition, then it shouldn't be, you know, dapat hindi kami magpapakabusog dun sa food na yon. Kasi in terms of nutrition, lalo na tayo nasanay tayo mag-fasting, parang mabilis tayo mabusog eh. So you have to be wise in terms of choosing the food that you're putting into your body kasi limited yung appetite natin eh. I mean, for myself, for my wife, not so much limited. But for me, for example, na starting na nagpa-fasting ka, nag-low carb ka, hindi na ganun kalakas yung kain mo kasi after eating so much, you feel full and you're fine, right? So you have to be wise in choosing what you ingest. Kasi if you know, unahin mo yung low carb nga but hindi naman nutrient dense, then you're still depriving your body with the proper nutrition. So, haba ng sinabi ko, no?
Yes, tama lang. Thank you so much for that. So you mentioned a while ago, di ba, that you were doing CrossFit. And actually, I think, no, kahit pa hindi kayo magkasama during those times, she was also doing CrossFit then, before, around, di ba? Alam niya, may gumagawa din siya. But now that you are doing low carb and also doing fasting, can you expound like your degree, like performance when it comes to physical activity, endurance? Was there any difference?
It's really hard to tell now because since I did low carb, we were on lockdown and there's not much physical activity you can do like sa gym. But in terms of, I can feel na when I get up, for example, I don't feel the need to eat right away. And then major difference from my lifestyle before I did low carb is that after ko kumain, hindi ako groggy, hindi ako pagod. I can get back right away to whatever I was doing before eating. That's the main difference for me. I did a little bit of Muay Thai during this lockdown. And I can say that in performance-wise, even if parang kakabalik ko lang sa cardio or Muay Thai activity, I did fairly good considering in people who just go back to physical activity. And not to mention, yun nga, sleep-deprived pa, which is really not ideal if you're gonna do physical activity. But yeah, I would say comparatively, I really did better with this type of lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. So you mentioned long fasting. How long was your longest fast? Water fast ba to?
For women.
Almost 5 days, I think, was my
Wow.
longest. Yeah.
Were you together? Did you do it together? O hindi sabay?
No,
Ah, you were
di ko
pregnant that
alam.
time. You were
Ha?
pregnant that time already, no? When he did his, ano?
No,
Hindi?
ano ba yun?
I think I did one while she was pregnant, but the longest that I did, we weren't together yet.
Oo,
Wow.
And
share ko lang sa kanya about the
Ay,
extended
yeah.
fasting.
Okay,
So,
okay,
few
okay.
days later, he tried it.
you know what, Doc?
Wow.
I believe looking back, I could have done longer. It's just that
Mm,
at that time, syempre hindi ako masyadong equipped in terms of
mm.
what I can
Mental,
take.
yeah.
Ang nangyari sa akin was that I was getting lightheaded. So wala
Mm.
akong masyadong sodium. I didn't get
No
much
electrolyte
minerals
preparation whatsoever.
together with the water.
Mm.
So I had to stop.
Mm.
Yeah, but now whenever subsequent to that, although not longer, I when I would do extended fast is that she would grind some
Potassium.
potassium tablets,
Ba
Yeah,
talagang may bahay?
magluluto in my water so
Wow.
that hindi ko na experience yung lightheadedness even if I do extended fast. So when
Wow.
we talk about extended fast, we're talking about over 48 hours, for example.
Mm.
So yeah.
Wow. And you do that, your longest fast, of course, before pregnancy.
Mm. Before pregnancy, I did 7 days for 3 quarters straight.
Mm.
So once every quarter, I would do
Oh,
a
7.
7 day fast.
And
Oo.
then may gym pa to, di ba? I remember you
May
were still
gym.
going to the gym
May
that
gym.
time.
Kasi
Every
I
day.
realized, parang fast yung pag-switch ko to fat burning if
Mm.
I do like cardio on the second day. Kasi
Okay.
yung first run ko ng 7 day fast, no gym. So
Mm.
parang nag-switch ako third day na. So first 3 days ko talaga
Medyo
medyo
mahirap
challenging.
yung
Oo.
ano, yung transition.
Oo, kasi nga I was
Especially na yung
working.
last intake mo nun, hindi low carb. Di ba? Low
Nag-fit
carb
ako.
before you do your EF, your extended fast.
Oo.
Okay.
You should tell them your experience when you went hiking and you were fasting.
Yeah. I did
Kota
I
Kinabalu?
hiked Kota Kinabalu, Mount Kinabalu, oo. Mount Kinabalu. And I was with a friend, a guy friend. Yung friend ko, na ang daming trail food, nag-carbo loading day before, nag-carbo loading for breakfast that day. Tapos, ang dami ng trail food, ang daming sweets, ang daming
So
nuts.
prepared siya.
Prepared, sobrang prepared. Ako, my only preparation was to do fasting and then have my black coffee. Black
Wow.
coffee lang sa, ano ko, sa tumbler ko. And sobrang, the entire hike, lagi ko siyang naiiwan. Galit na siya. Parang ba't di ka napapagod?
Kasi
Sabi
I
ko,
remember yung ka-level mo yung guide.
Oo, yung guide.
Kasabayan mo yung guide. Grabe.
Kasabay ko yung guide. Oo.
Oh, kasi for those who are watching us, my sister is a hiker talaga. Ilang bukid na siguro ang naakyat nito. Ngayon, ano lang yan, pamami-mami lang yan. Pero yung totoo, malakas yan. Okay? So, those are the things that we would like to emphasize. And I think you mentioned na a month after you gave birth, you underwent laparoscopy. So I
Oo.
think I would like to emphasize that sa mga ano no, na you actually were diagnosed with gallbladder stone even before we started low carb, right?
10 years ago pa ata for
10
the
years
first
ago.
diagnosis. Oo.
Oo.
Kasi that goes, nakikita yan every time I do my executive check-up.
Oo.
So, yeah.
Nice. Tapos tinatanong mo rin ako before, okay lang yan.
Okay lang yan.
Okay.
Office mates pala ako na
The
did
moment
elective laparoscopy after it was showing
diagnosis.
the results. Sabi ko, kasi may doctor naman ako, sister. Okay naman ako.
But even the doctor who was handing you your result would say na it's elective. You can opt not to do it yet, diba?
It's just that it has a risk. So the moment kasi na meron ka ng gallbladder stone, of course, for those patients that we handle, there were really instances na pwede siyang mag-regress. Pwede talagang mawala. When just low carb fasting, and also there are medicines that can help na paliitin yon, but it will take time nga, and of course with you cannot risk that. I think the decision for you guys was that the risk na anytime na baka mag-complicate, mag-need ng emergency laparoscopy or emergency operation, that is much, much more hassle for you na kailangan iwanan ulit si Arky and that. So that's why you opted for elective surgery. But if we can recall, since naka-strict low carb ka nung pregnancy and now na 2 months si Arky, anong nangyari nung 1 month na yon before ka unoperahan?
Ay,
Hindi parang ayaw magsalita. Pinipigilan ko magsalita. Anong nangyari?
sobrang nag-indulge ako with mga galactobombs. Mga treats. Parang lactating treats.
Na pang padami ng production. Marami
Oo.
ganun
Kasi,
na.
Masarap, masarap.
Tingnan mo, pati si Atty Cath. Parang po kumain kahit hindi nagpapano.
It was so yummy, but what I do remember after having them, after enjoying them, together with mommy,
Kasama ba talaga si
masakit
Mami?
ulo ko. I
Nawala
would
si Mami.
feel I would feel nauseated. Tapos it would linger, yung headache maglilinger. And then Kat really didn't experience any of the headaches, but yun, it really triggered yung sa gallstones niya. Yeah, because we found out that grabe pala, heavy on sugar pala yung laman.
It's very high carb and high fat at the same time.
Right.
So it was like the worst combination, and that's why pancreatitis in addition to gallbladder stone na nag-inflame, yun talaga yung nangyari. But her recovery, can you recall her recovery when it comes to pancreatitis? Diba yung iba, diba sabi ko if it's pancreatitis, supposedly it's like an emergency, but how she is recovering, it's as if she's already recovering kahit nasa bahay pa that time. But of course, she has to be rushed at the hospital. Can you still recall?
Oo, pagpunta ko kasi na-notice ko na whenever I eat, una kasi painful lang yung tummy ko. Sobrang painful na. I was so much in pain. Tapos, na-notice ko na I'd feel relief pag na-spit out ko lahat, na-vomit ko lahat. Oo. So, because of that, I decided right there and then na magpa-fast na lang ako. Kasi, yun, parang for relief that time, yun lang talaga naisip ko na since it's
and you listen to your body, and we know that fasting, when you don't have the appetite, you can just do fasting, and we did it before, not really for healing purposes, and even if we know that it's for healing, so I think that was the best application talaga that time for you.
So more than 20, almost 48 hours na no food na ako, and wala na talagang pain. Wala talaga zero from
10 over 10.
10 over 10, naging 0 over 10. Kaso, pinatake ako ng...
Sorry, just to interject. When she was really in pain, nasa bahay pa kami, ako, sobrang chill lang ako kasi sabi ko, yung panganganak nga kinaya mo And then she was telling me, this is worse.
Oh my! Oh my!
Yeah.
So you'll be fine. Kakapanganak mo lang, kinaya mo nga yun 40 hours of labor.
Normal pa, no? Normal nga. Tapos 7 pounds na kaya mo.
Different. Yung mukha niya.
So, tapos, yun nga, nag-down to 0 over 10. Kaso, nag-take na ako ng test, ng lysate and amylase. And when I got the results, sobrang elevated. So, I was excited to go to the ER.
Kasi for those who are not familiar, when pancreatitis o yung naging inflame yung pancreas, so kapag tumaas na yung level niyan sa iyong dugo, ibig sabihin, yung mga enzymes that is supposedly inside, lumabas na sa bloodstream mo. And once it is there, supposedly, it is correlated with super elevated inflammation that the pain is really worse. It is one of the cardinal signs and symptoms talaga of pancreatitis na in pain. So, hindi nila ma-correlate yon sa'yo because you are looking fine. You don't have any pain at all. But your level of is sobrang taas because there was even, I think, no recorded incidence of pancreatitis that level, but walang pain because wala rin namang pasyente na nagpa-fast. Usually sa Pinoy, masama pakiramdam mo, pilitin mong kumain. Kumain ka lang ng kumain. But with you, what happened?
Yun, hindi lang ako kumain. So, during, yung triad sa ER, sobrang ang dami nagtatanong sa akin, ba't ka nga andito? Kasi wala naman akong pain. Hindi talaga nila niya mag-gets bakit ako nandun. So, in-explain ko, tas paano daw ako nagka-pancreatitis, okay ka naman. Sabi ko, I was in pain like 2 days ago, 10/10 talaga.
Oh.
Tapos, ngayon, kamusta ang pain mo? 0/10.
Wala talaga. So I think that's one of the parang sinasabi nating miracle of fasting, but actually yun lang naman talaga kasi ngayon we are provided with so many tools that we sometimes feel like we have to make use of them. Libre yung pagpapa-hospital, magpa-hospital tayo. Libreng insurance sa gamot, bumili tayo ng gamot. We have abundant food, we eat. But sometimes what we just need to do is listen to our body and do nothing and let your body heal itself. But of course, it's better safe than sorry. That's why when in doubt, always go to your nearest hospital, of course, just like you did. And then maganda din kasi you were observed. And even actually, if you were caught, for example, at the peak of your pain, you will still be put on NPO. So NPO means nothing per orem. Wala kang iinumin, wala kang kakainin. If you need hydration, IV therapy. Okay? That's the most that they can give in the hospital. But actually, if we like listen, our anatomy daw as humans is actually closer to dogs than to ruminants. So yung mga kumakain ng damo and grass, we are closer to dogs and carnivores. And what do you've had dogs before, di ba? When they are sick, napapakain mo pa sila or napapainom mo sila ng tubig? Di ba? Hindi. You can't force them. They know when to stop. And then, hayaan mo lang sila. After a while, lalabas yan. Kakain na yan kapag magaling na sila. But us, just because we studied veterinary medicine, we are forcing them to eat at kung ano-ano pang treat basta makakain lang sila. And also, that's the reason why marami sa mga pets natin, when we seek consult with them, of course, I'm not against any of them, but as per my own experience, lahat ng dinala ko sa vet, namamatay talaga, except for the one nga, si Trixie Boy. Oo, so si Trixie Boy noon, 1 week with pancreatitis then. I remembered because he was also diagnosed with pancreatitis. So they forced feed him. Pero nakita ko talaga, he was already like dying. So what I did, pinull out ko, inuwi ko sa bahay. I just did IV, but eventually kinuha niya. Naglagay ako ng food and water on his bedside. But hindi siya nag-touch talaga. For one week, naka-IV lang. Another week, naka-dry fast si Trixie Boy. Wala siyang kinain kahit ano. And after that 2 weeks, lumabas ng kwarto. Okay na siya. Then, but I was so sure he was going to die that time. Lahat na ultrasound, x-ray, lahat na ng diagnostics ginawa nila and they were not able to detect anything. So, my point is, sometimes we have all of these tools, all of these modern technologies, all of these available things for us, but sometimes the best cure is already within us. But I think it wouldn't be that easy for you to just decide, I will just fast. If you haven't experienced fasting before, not for serious reasons. Would you think so?
Oh, yeah. Actually, gusto ko talaga, I really like the feeling when I do fasting. Kaya even during pregnancy, lagi ako nagsasabi dito na I can't wait na na ulit ako, extended fast. So parang nung time na yun, it's an opportunity for me to do fasting. Kaya ang bilis-bilis kong nag-decide na that time, parang kumakain sila ni maming ng crispy pata here. Di ba? Mm-hmm. I was the one who ordered it kasi sobrang mga masasarap. Tapos tinitingnan ko lang sila. Na medyo masakit lang siya emotionally na I can't partake. Pero I like the feeling talaga na pag nakapafast ako.
Yeah. I think we can all share that sentiment. And when it comes to like that mental mindset, I think sa ating lahat, Ken knows you so well, yung hungry na attitude. So, hunger and angry. Kilala mo siya way before, di ba? Kung paano siya maging hungry. Okay? How is she handling that now? Was there a difference?
Wala. Actually, you would be surprised. You're right. With my wife, pag gutom siya, she's really in a terrible mood. But think about it. Nagfa-fast siya, di ba? So, you get hungry. So, with her, it's more on yung, you'd say, yung mindset niya. If she's gonna get hungry because she's on fasting, then she's fine. Pero yung may expectation siya of food, but she doesn't get it and she's hungry,
Another
yeah,
story. That's
you
another.
want to steer clear. Oh, that's the problem. Yeah. Oh. But on days na she decides na no, okay, I mean gutom na siya. It's like 1 p.m. na, tapos di pa kami I haven't prepared anything yet, and I'd ask her what she wants and she'd say I can still go, a couple of hours fasting. So I mean she's not full by that time, right? But it's more of a mindset sa kanya
Yeah.
na if pag gutom siya, meaning she's hungry and she's expecting food and there's none, and or some one reason or another hindi siya makakain. Doon siya in a not a great mood. But when she makes up her mind na okay, I'll go fasting now, I'm fine. You can just go on with just hydration. Then wala, no effect. So it's more of a mindset sa kanya.
Yeah. So I think I understand that very well. Alam ko yung ibig mong sabihin. And of course, I don't want to keep you late and si RK para magdademanda yan ng full attention soon. One last thing for you. So true na naoperahan ka na. You already got your gallbladder removed. So sabi yung usual, although I discussed it already in previous videos, yung nating sabi, wala na akong gallbladder, doc. Hindi na ba ako pwedeng kumain ng matataba? Bawal na ba sa akin yung low carb? Kasi kung low carb, low fat, ano na lang yung kakainin mo? Proteins na lang, hindi naman pwede yon. So what happened to you after you had your surgery? Okay, not coming from me, but coming from your surgeon. Anong sabi ng surgeon mo?
Avoid fatty food.
Okay.
Yun yung sabi talaga. Di ba? Ulit na actually, sabi nga, dapat soft diet ako for like a month for recovery. Pero,
first meal niya, lechon.
yun.
Yun na. First meal,
I mean,
after discharge.
lechon, basta hindi siya soft diet, right?
Yung recovery ko, nasa hospital pa lang, parang the laparoscopy was done that morning around 8 a.m. That afternoon, nakakalakad na ako to the restroom.
Wow.
Oo. Then, pagdating ko ng bahay, nagpa-feed na ako.
I think it was Saturday. Saturday morning na operahan ka. So after nung naglalakad ka na, Sunday, umuwi ka na, nagpa-breastfeed na. And then, first meal, lechon.
Lechon.
And then, di ba second meal, crispy pata ba yun? Ano nga yun? I think it was
Something.
yepo.
Kawali ata.
Lechon kawali. Okay. And until now, your usual, because Ken was saying a lot of green leafy vegetables. So is it true that all you're eating like majority of the time green leafy vegetables?
Yeah, staple namin ang salad, cabbage.
And Ken can answer. That's sorry, it's okay.
No, but we would have lots of eggs in the morning. I'd make omelette, for example.
And bacon.
Just going back, Doc, dun sa advice ng surgeon sa kanya. I think it's good advice for sa assumption na as Filipinos, heavy tayo on carbs sa diet natin. So when the doctor says avoid fatty food, it would work. I mean, it's a good advice for those na yung lifestyle nila, nag-incorporate talaga ng rice, because it's really terrible to combine carbs and fat, right? But I think what Kat was trying to say earlier na she didn't necessarily follow the advice, and it did not have any detrimental effects sa kanya because she's on low carb, right? Kumbaga, she had the license to eat fatty food. I mean, not exclusively fatty food, but she can tolerate fatty food because she's on low carb diet, right? Yeah. Dito naman sa low carb diet namin, we don't target specifically getting or having real fatty food and then kumbaga high fat. It's not high fat, right? It's not a high fat diet. It's more on a balanced diet with putting emphasis on choosing the kind of carbs that we have and making sure na with the little carb that we allow ourselves to ingest, dun kami sa nutrient-dense na carb. Kasi not all carbs are created equal. Diba? So, yeah.
Before we end, can you tell us what you ate today?
What did we have? Earlier, we had yung go-to salad namin, which is a combination of romaine lettuce and there's tomatoes and no, sorry, onions, and then some cheese with dried blueberries.
Mm.
Tapos, we either put Caesar dressing or Thousand Island dressing. And then she
Sukiyaki beef.
she broiled some sukiyaki beef.
Mm.
And yeah, that's that. That's
We
that.
have tahong.
And we had tahong soup because she's breastfeeding. So we had tahong
Oh.
soup with lots of malunggay. Mm. Yeah.
Okay, so those are really, really great, no? So all
Oh,
of
and
these,
kombucha. We have kombucha.
you
So
have kombucha.
it's sparkling,
Okay.
it's tasty. So yung craving namin for soda, before we'd go for example, yung mga zero or light. But yun nga, since just because it's low carb, it doesn't mean that it's high in nutrition. So we settled with, not really settled, but we chose kombucha to be part of our regular meal because it has good bacteria in it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's tasty.
And
And
it's
for dessert, we had 70% dark chocolate.
Ah, iba talaga yung glow ng mata niya kapag nagsasabi siya about dessert. Meron talaga. Okay, so thank you so much for staying and being live with us today. Tingnan natin, how many ba? Okay, still 2,000 live viewers. Maraming salamat. And of course, I'll see you in a few days' time. Okay, maraming salamat. We will definitely make low carb chips dyan. And for, of course, sa mga gustong makalearn when it comes to masterclass, kahit po pinagsasabi namin ng kung ano ng mga pagkain, but we have a lot of testimonials and videos and recipes sa Life Without Rice that low carb nutrition, nutrient dense, low carb nutrition doesn't need to be expensive. Okay? Hindi talaga kailangan expensive yan. But we have these couples, we have people everywhere. Dumadami na po tayo who are practicing low carb. So it's applicable for everyone. I just want to thank these two brilliant lawyers, the ones I entrust my life at yung mga pinaniniwalaan ko that if they believe in low carb. So wala na. Low carb is really the real thing talaga. Kasi na-convince ko silang dalawa. Yay! That is really an achievement. So kahit walang maniwala sa akin, basta kayo at yung medical journal time ni Ken ay consistent lang din sa pinaniniwalaan natin. Okay? We are always open to learning, open discussions, and many other things to improve our way of life. But it is important that we do it for the right reasons and the right mindset. Last message, like for you as a young couple with a baby to grow beautifully and very demanding kasi can't wait to grow up na siya.
Well, yeah, for us, I guess what is really important for me is that our baby is just 2 months old and we are not
Young.
that young. So I could just imagine, having to engage with him and play with him when he's of the right age. Hindi na rin kami kabataan. So it's primordial for us to keep our health, and keep an active life. So this lifestyle, low carb feasting and fasting, allows us to do that. And once you get the hang of it, kumbaga, just make sure that you have available food, yung pasok or consistent sa lifestyle natin. Just make it available at home. You will get into it easily, kumbaga, after some time that you get to be consistent with it. And as the doctor said earlier, it doesn't have to be expensive. And yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you. Duday, any last message? I love you.
Yeah. I love you. Thanks for introducing this lifestyle to us. It's a gift not just for me and my family, but for everyone. So we all love ourselves and our family. So do it for them. Do it for yourself. Stay low carb and stay healthy.
Thank you. Picture muna tayong apat. Okay? Smile. Nakasmile din yan. 2,000 live viewers. Hello. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Yan. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. I'll see you again
Bye.
in a few days time. Goodbye, everyone. Bye, Arky.
Bye-bye.
Sasagutan. Sasagutan. Bye, bye.